What's doing, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. If you've never been here before, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and check out one of the many videos that I have posted. Everybody else, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much. For those of you that have never been here before, I served 17 years in the New York State prison system, and this video is going to be about a request that I've been getting. It's when they apprehended me. How did it feel to get caught? When did I get caught? And how did it go down? I have posted a video called Going on the Run for Murder about 6 or 8 months ago where I explained the whole story. I suggest that you go check it out. I would appreciate it. It's called Going on the Run for Murder. But I'm going to give you a little brief synopsis right now. Excuse me, a little brief synopsis about what happened, and how it felt to get caught. So let's get right into it. When I found out they were looking for me, I was out driving in my neighborhood, not far from my neighborhood, and I got the phone call that detectives were in the neighborhood and they were looking for me. And I went to a phone and I called my girlfriend up and I said, listen, I just got word that they're looking for me, for a murder charge. And she said, Fish, she said, they have the house surrounded right now. I said, what do you mean? She said, there's a cop car parked outside. There's another cop car across the street. She said, I even see a guy in the bushes. They're waiting for you. And this was pretty, made the moment intense right from there. From that moment, I was never able to go see my apartment again. This really sucked because I had a beautiful apartment on the beach, a 2-bedroom apartment, and everything that I had to my name was up there. My dog was up there, my Rottweiler Beauty. I was never able to see her again. All my possessions, anything of sentimental value, my home. I wasn't able to go see it again, and I never did see it again. So I had to walk away. I also had a car that I had to just drop and walk away from right there because I knew they would have an APB for the car, an all points bulletin, and so I drove the car right next to a bridge, parked it, threw the keys on the seat, locked it up, and walked away from the car. I called my girlfriend. I said, listen, you know where my favorite place is? Meet me there. I said, they're going to try and follow you. You got to be sneaky. I said, if you can't lose them, don't meet me there. I says, and I'll get in touch with you, but try and get there. And she met me. She met me in my spot, and obviously I was freaking out. I was freaking out. I had just finished taking a man's life 3 nights before. I was withdrawing from drugs or still under the influence from drugs. I was panicking. I was definitely, the anxiety was through the roof, man. I was freaking out. I didn't intend to take someone's life. It wasn't something that was planned. I've discussed that in many of my videos. And at this point, I just didn't know what to do. But I knew I had to go on the run. I knew I had to get away. And it wasn't to run to, like, thinking I'm going to go on the run and just make it forever. I knew I was eventually going to be caught, but I believed that when I got caught, I was going to get 25 years to life and I would die in the prison system. I wasn't ready for that yet. Who is ready for that? And I just wanted to have some time before I was apprehended and get away. I'm being honest, and get away. And so we called. I called a couple of people that I knew, and I ended up calling, my girlfriend called her uncle, and her uncle took me to his house. And I said, listen, I can't stay around long. I got to get out of this state. I got to leave the state. I don't want to stay around here. And I said, I want you to put me in the trunk of your car because they're all over looking for me. And I want you to drive me to Manhattan because there's 8 million people there. And I can get into New York City and blend in and then come up with some type of plan. And so my girlfriend and her uncle drove me into New York City to Penn Station. And when we got to Penn Station, I took my girlfriend out of the car and I stood on the sidewalk with her in front of Penn Station. I had 2 stab wounds in me. I was withdrawing from drugs. I was panicking. I was scared. I was crying. We were hugging. And I told her, we're probably never going to see each other again. There's a good chance from this moment that we may never see each other again. I was partly suicidal. I was freaking out, man. I was freaking out. It's hard to even elaborate the immense emotions that go through you. You know, was I sorry for taking someone's life? Of course I was. And but the honest truth is, at this moment, you're thinking self-preservation. How could I? What should I do? How can I get out of here? And I just remember hugging her and kissing her goodbye. And she got in the car, and I told them to go. She asked me, where you going? I said, you're better off not knowing. I didn't want her to know. And they left. They left. And I tried to come up with a plan. The first thing I did was call a friend of mine, a powerful friend of mine. He was associated with, he was a wise guy. He was associated with the Gotti family, with John Gotti. And I called him up and said, listen, I'm in some trouble. He said, what's up? I says, I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I'm just letting you know I'm in trouble. And I need some money, like right now. And he said, where are you? I says, I'm at Penn Station. He says, all right. He says, wait there, and I'll be there as soon as I can. So he showed up, and he brought me a few grand. And, he said, it was funny. He told me too, I don't want to know where you're going. He says, here's money. And if you need anything, give me a call. And then he left. And so now I was on my own. I went to 42nd Street. I got a fake ID under a different name with my picture. And then I walked into Greyhound, and I said, take me to North Carolina. And I got on the bus. I went to North Carolina because I had never been there before. So I figured I wanted to go to a place where nobody knew me. And when I got off the bus, and I remember the bus ride to North Carolina, I don't even remember what I was thinking. You're in another world. You're in the twilight zone. Everything is collapsing. The world is coming apart. The world is the roof is caving in on you. And I just kept playing over and over in my head. My life is over. My life is over. And you don't think about these things when you do something. Because a lot of people are impulsive, and a lot of people do things that they don't realize there's repercussions for them. That's they don't realize that that you create circumstances and there's severe penalties for them. And it could be simple. It doesn't have to be a murder charge like mine. Anything can happen so fast. You get out of the car. I use road rage as an example all the time. You get out of the car, think you're just going to argue with someone. You don't know you don't know the mind frame of the other guy. You may pull a knife out and stick it in you. You may pull a gun out and shoot you in the face. You think you're the toughest guy in the world, right? And you never know who you're going to run into, and the situation changes. Or you end up hurting him or cracking his head open. Or next thing you know, you're in front of a judge, man. Life like this, everything changes. And it doesn't mean you're a bad guy, man. It just, you don't think. You got to think before you act. So I go to North Carolina. I get off the bus. I don't know whether to go left or right when I get to North Carolina. But I see like a wino under a tree. This old black guy just sitting under a tree with a brown bag, drinking a bottle. I went up to him and I said, yo, where's a good place for me to stay around here? And he looked me up and down. He said, you on the run? That guy pinned me right away. I said, yeah, I'm on the run. He said, get back on the bus and get out of here. Ain't no white folks around here. Police going to grab you right away. And he was right. I looked around. I was in a neighborhood that was, all brothers. I said, yeah, I stand out here. And so I got back on the bus, and I said, give me a ticket to South Beach, Miami. And I went to South Beach, Miami, because I had my mother's friend there. And I had the address to his job. I had the phone number to his house, but I didn't want to call him. I didn't want to give him a heads up. I knew he knew that I was on the run because he talks to my mother all the time. So I wanted to just surprise him at his job. So I took a cab to his job, but he wasn't there, and the job was closed. So I ended up calling him, and I said, listen, I'm at your job. And he's freaking out. Oh, my God, this, that. I said, listen, just don't tell anyone. Come get me. I need you to come get me. And what happened was my mother's friend was gay, and he had a boyfriend. And he told the boyfriend that he was coming to get me, and the boyfriend called the police, right? But I didn't know this. So, but I was hungry, so I went across the street to it was a McDonald's or a Burger King. I really don't even remember. I went across the street to get a burger, and as I was eating the burger, it's about 9 o'clock at night. I see 2, 3 cop cars surround his job with the lights. They're looking. I said, "Oh, they called the cops, right?" So now I got to get out of there, and I'm in South Beach. I don't know where I am. I've never been to this neighborhood. I don't know where to go. Again, I don't know where to go, left or right. So I run behind the restaurant, and there's a guy there eating his food. I open up the driver's door, and I punch him in the face. I feel bad. I really do, but I got to get out of there. I push him into the passenger side. He thinks I'm robbing him. He don't speak good English. He's going, please, please, please. And I said, listen, calm down, calm down. I take him. I keep him stuffed in the bottom of the seat, and I just take off like 2, 3 blocks, and I park the car to get away from the scene. He thinks I'm robbing him. He's giving me his wallet. I said, listen, I'm not robbing you. He goes, you run from police, yeah, you run. I said, yes, I'm running from the police. And I calm him down, though. I said, listen, I came here to visit a friend. I make up a story. I said, I came here to visit a friend, and I got into a fight. He called the police. I don't want to go to jail. I need your help. I show him the money I have. I said, I'm not robbing you. I'll give you money. You know what I mean? I'll give you money. And I had a big silver chain on me. I always had. When I take that off, I said, listen, I'm not robbing you. You could have my stuff, and he calms down. And the guy says, I'll hide you. I said, you're going to hide me? He goes, yeah, I'll hide you. I said, where do you live? He goes, right here. I said, no way. Guy takes me up into his house. This guy was a lifesaver. He takes me up into his house. I take a shower. He gives me clean clothes. He tells me I could sleep on the couch. I'm very nervous. I'm watching this guy, but he's okay. I can tell. And I fall asleep. It was, I needed a night's sleep. I had been going for days from Manhattan to North Carolina. Was a couple of days on the bus that was stopping. Then from North Carolina to Miami was a couple of days on the bus. And so now I got food. I got a good night's sleep. And in the morning, he says to me, what do you want me to do with you? I said, just take me back to Greyhound. But when we get to Greyhound, the cops are there. So I figured they're probably waiting for me to try and escape, try and make a move to get out. So he drives me all the way to Fort Lauderdale, and I get back on Greyhound, and I says, "Take me to Texas." I had another buddy in Texas that I figured could put me up for a little while. And at this point, I'm starting to think a little more. But I'm on this bus ride to Texas, and I'm hurting. I'm hurting bad for a few reasons, right? You gotta try to imagine this. I'm on the run for killing someone. So my mind is in a million places. I am petrified that my life is over. I have a broken shoulder because it was broken even before the actual murder where I killed a guy. My shoulder was crushed from doing bite work with a police dog. And I fell down on my shoulder. I should have definitely been to the hospital, but the angel dust was numbing it, right? Angel dust numbs pain. But now the pain was kicking in from my broken shoulder. I'm stabbed twice from the incident, from the actual murder. The guy stabbed me. So here I am on this bus going from Miami to Texas, from Fort Lauderdale to Texas. My shoulder is killing me. I'm withdrawing from drugs. I have 2 stab wounds. I've been in the same clothes. I am hurting, man. I figured my life is over. And I just remember being on that bus, feeling like I was in the Twilight Zone, like I was in another world. As I said, everything, the world was just crashing down on me. And I meet a girl on the bus, and I'm sitting next to her. And, I give her a fake name. I don't give her my real name. And I'm talking to her. I'm an absolute disaster. I end up sleeping with this girl, which is crazy. On the bus, we sneak into the bathroom. We're flirting with each other. Look, my life is in chaos, upside down. Everything is crazy. I'm coming to an end, but I meet this girl. I'm like, this may be my last chance. Who knows? You know what I mean? And we're flirting back and forth. I told her, go in. So this isn't X-rated, so we'll stay out of that. But I end up going with that girl, and the bus ride continues to Texas. And when I get to Texas, I look up my friend, and I think he's a professor in school, and I end up finding him, and he puts me up. He puts me up. I'm with him for a few weeks. I'm staying there for a few weeks, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. There's a whole story about my time. That's why I said go check out my video, Going on the Run for Murder. It's on my channel. It'll explain the whole story. But I'm laying in bed. It's like 5 in the morning, and all I hear is ch, and I turn my face, and the shotgun is right in my mouth. Boom. And I look at this guy. He's got a cowboy hat on. He's got two cowboy boots. He's got a gun on each side of his hip, a real Texas Ranger, and he's got the shotgun pressed right against my mouth. And he says in that southern drawl, he goes, "You move, boy, I'll kill you." I says, "I'm not moving a muscle. I'm not moving a muscle." And I looked, and there was two New York City detectives as well that he was escorting them around. They had the lasers on me with the guns, one on my chest, one on my head. I was stuck. And he says, "You move, boy, I'll kill you." And I says, "I'm not moving a muscle." And they put the handcuffs on me and rushed me out of the house into the squad car and took me to the Houston. They started arguing, the New York City detectives and the Texas Ranger, because the New York City detectives wanted to take me right there and bring me to the airport to bring me back to New York. But the Texas Ranger said he's going into the Houston County Jail. And they brought me into the Houston County Jail. I was there for a little while, too, because I was fighting extradition. And I was in front of like this 85-year-old black Southern judge from the deep South, man. And he was actually pretty decent with me. He wasn't bad at all. And I was arguing the extradition a little bit. And I was kind of relieved to be caught. Being on the run is stressful. Unless you have tons and tons of money. I didn't have, tens of thousands of dollars, and it was a little bit of a relief. Um, it was a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but I was not glad to be caught. I was just glad that it was coming to an end, that part was coming to an end, because a whole nother part was going to start. And they put me on a plane and flew me back to LaGuardia Airport, right into LaGuardia. And when I landed, I was able to get a phone call before we got on the plane and let my mother know, "Ma, they caught me. I've been apprehended." I says, and they're going to be flying me back into New York City. When I came back into New York, they brought me to central booking, and there's a whole nother story about that, about the process that took place after that. But that's how I got caught, and then the journey was really beginning. The battle was really beginning. So a lot of people ask me in the comments, "How'd you get caught? How'd they find you?" How did they find me in Texas was a big question. I made some mistakes. I made some mistakes. There's a couple of ways. I have some speculation that, one of two people, there's two different people that could have told the police where I was. That's in the back of my head always. These two individuals who I didn't forget. It's possible that either one of these individuals told the police where I was, and or I also made a mistake. Is I did make a phone call from Texas to a buddy, not a buddy, somebody I knew from when I was 18 years old and I was in a rehab. He was the director of the rehab. And I called him to tell him I screwed up. I messed up my life. And he said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I really can't get into it with you, but," I says, "I'm running from the police." And it's possible that he called the police and let them know that he got a phone call from me, which would have led them to Texas, but not to my exact location. So there's a few things, and some things I can't really discuss, but they got me. They got me. So for those of you that asked, that's how they found me. All right, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going too long already. See the Dashan t-shirt? See my Dashan t-shirt? Nice, nice. I got that just for you guys. It's a cute t-shirt. I'll post another video soon, guys. Enjoy the day. Thank you for your support. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you a thing. I'm out of here. I'll talk to you soon. Check out some more stories. Bye-bye, guys.